Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Immuron's Business Update webinar. Today is Tuesday, the 28th of February, 2023. I'd like to welcome Immuron CEO Steven Lydeamore to provide an update and then we'll move to a Q&A. If you'd like to submit a question, please do so via the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. I will now hand over to Steven to commence the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome to the business update for FY23. For those of you that aren't familiar, Immuron is listed on both ASX and NASDAQ. We focus on gut-mediated diseases. We have a platform technology around bovine colostrum. Some of you may have read recently about antimicrobial resistance. Our product is not an antibiotic and certainly becoming more and more relevant in current times. At the moment, we have cash in the bank of about $18.5 million, and unfortunately, the market capitalisation is less than that. Clearly, investors at the moment are not giving value to Travelan or to our pipeline, and I'll outline today what we're doing to remedy that. First of all, we've appointed Flavio Palumbo as our Chief Commercial Officer. Flavio has a background in consumer health, not only in Australia, but also in the UK and Asia. For companies like GSK and Procter & Gamble. He is now in charge of growing our Travelan sales, not only in existing markets of Australia, Canada and USA, but also looking at UK, Europe and Asian markets. At this present time, we're going through a regulatory evaluation process, looking to register Travelan in UK and Europe, and in Asia we're in active discussion with a number of Southeast Asian companies. Travelan is in high demand. It's surging on the back of rebounding growth in international sales, and unfortunately we were caught a little bit short being able to supply, so we did experience some supply chain capacity issues, which we have addressed by contracting another packaging supplier. So all Australian wholesalers and pharmacies should now be back in stock. We've resupplied some product back into the US market, and we're building inventory in order to enable continued growth, not only in Australia, but in USA and in Canada. I'm pleased to report that we've sold in the half year $584,000 of product, up 153% on the prior year. And even more happy to share with you today that since the half year, so that is January up until the 24th of February, we've now sold 1.23 million, up 234% on the prior year period, with Australian sales contributing 776,000 of that. As you can see, with the rebound in international travel, the demand for Travelan, a product which our loyal customers know works in prevention of travellers' diarrhoea, is in high demand. We have an extremely strong balance sheet. I mentioned the cash balance. We will continue to look at growth opportunities, both organic and M&A, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Also talk a little bit more about our pipeline. So just before Christmas, we received approval for an IND, that's an investigational new drug for Travelan, which we are looking to file as a BLA with the FDA in the US to become a prescription product. Here's those sales I just talked about. So $1.23 million in sales, up 234%, and impressively more than 1,000% increase in Australia. I mentioned that we've addressed the packaging bottleneck and our stocking situation. We're looking forward to continued growth throughout this financial year, and perhaps next financial year we should be able to reach or exceed the peak sales that the company achieved before the pandemic of that I think it was around $2.5 million. Quick update here. I've mentioned Flavio, our Chief Commercial Officer, before. He's working on the USA market, launching our own shopfront on Amazon.com. We'll look to do the same in the Canadian market as well. During the year, we've contracted with a new sales agency and also a new logistics agency in North America, and we're putting those into place. And together with them, we'll look at relaunching into retail pharmacy in the US, most likely in FY24, although the discussions will happen in FY23. Timing is just due to when ranging gets done within retail pharmacy banners, same as in Canada. So the next opportunity to get into retail pharmacy banners is in FY24, and we'll be looking at doing that. Also looking at expanding into Asian and European markets through distributors. I mentioned we're in active discussions with a number of Southeast Asian companies as potential distributors, and we'll do the same for European markets. On the right, you can see the large retail shareholder base that we have in both US and Australia. BNY Mellon is our holds the ADSs, American Depository Shares, for our product, our company listed on NASDAQ, with board and management holding a 3% stake. This slide's important. It shows our clinical programs. Early on, after I joined Immuron, I had Humanity, a leading consulting company in the US, review the market opportunity for both travelers' diarrhea and clostridioides. I wanted to make sure that during that pandemic period that the market opportunity hadn't slipped us by, and I was pleased to find that it had not. So slides from Humanity we shared in our general meeting slides, and they're available. There's a reference at the back of this deck you can click on to have a look at that. But essentially for both IMM 124E and IMM 529, the market opportunity in the US alone is in excess of US $100 million for each product annually. So good opportunity. Let me talk about what we've been doing towards that. I mentioned that we had an IND approved by the FDA late last year. At the moment, we're going through a process of getting ethics approval to start a clinical trial. We expect that to happen in March, and we will then be able to initiate the challenge study in travelers' diarrhea in the first half of this calendar year. For the clostridioides program, we have developed the 600 milligram dose, which would go into the clinical trial. That's an important first step. At the moment, we're preparing a strategy and budget, which will be approved by the Immuron board before initiating clinical trials. For Travelan OTC, some of you will be familiar with the collaboration with the Department of Defence. So the Uniformed Services University is undertaking a clinical trial. So this is a randomised placebo-controlled clinical trial in active military from both the US and Canada. Some 868 patients. This is important for it because it's a field study. So these are military that are being actively deployed to high-risk regions, and we'll get a good read as to how effective it is in that setting, and that will provide valuable information which we'll be able to use for marketing purposes for our product. Floristor was previously in this product, another arm of the trial that has dropped out, so it's now Travelan versus placebo only. There's some advantages in that the number of subjects has decreased, and with the 157 patients we previously announced that being enrolled means we're more than 20% recruited, and we can now provide for the first time dates when we expect to get results. And I'm pleased to report that will happen this calendar year if the trial goes ahead as expected. The last program I want to talk about here is CAMP-ETEC, another Department of Defence collaboration. You may be aware that this is currently on clinical hold. I'd like to share with you what we have been doing. So a lot of work has gone obviously into this. We initiated an animal ethics toxicology study back in November. It was completed in December. The reports are being written up as we speak, and they should be available in March. We've had numerous discussions with the FDA and submitted our response letter, and we anticipate feedback from the FDA also in March. Hopefully we'll get a positive response. Let's go back to commercial for a moment. So this graph shows our distribution capability out of Australia, where we manufacture our product. We distribute to Canada and the US. And in Australia, over 3,500 pharmacies. I probably should update this slide with the recent stocking of wholesalers and pharmacies. It's probably approaching more like 5,000 pharmacies that's widely distributed. In the USA, our key customer is Passport Health, the largest network of travel medicine clinics. They continue to be an important partner for us in the US market. And online sales, we plan to increase both of those in US and Canada through our own shop fronts on Amazon.com. And I mentioned before the launch into retail pharmacies being explored in both the US and Canada. We continue to explore other options as well, like airlines, cruise ships, and health and wellness segments, as well as looking at other opportunities in markets such as Asia and Europe. But we're poised for growth, so we do have a strong balance sheet. We're looking at organic and M&A growth. Not only are we looking at expansion within different channels in existing markets, I've mentioned in US and Canada, the retail pharmacy market, and broadening our position in online markets. We'd like to enter into new markets, namely Asia and UK European markets. We have two products, Travelan and Protectin. Travelan is sold in all three markets. Protectin is currently under review in Canada with a view to launching in that market. We'd like to build out our portfolio of products within the digestive health space and have a number of discussions underway for both development of further enhanced versions of Travelan and Protectin, as well as licensing in other products in the digestive health space. This slide's important. It shows the progress of our clinical portfolio. I've highlighted in green the things that we had down in previous presentations that we have actually achieved. So for Travelan, that's the IND approval, and IRB approval, that's the first step in ethics approval. We are looking at initiating that clinical trial in the first half of this calendar year. The clinical study report for the full study is not due until the first half of 2024. CAMP-ETEC, I mentioned, was on clinical hold. We have the tox study completed. The report's due out soon, and as is the FDA feedback to our response letter. Both are expected in March. With a positive response, we would hope in the second half of the calendar year to initiate the clinical trials. For IMM 529, that's the Clostridioides, dosage development's been developed, and strategic planning and budgeting is currently underway, subject to review and approval by the board. In the second half of this calendar year, we plan to start GMP manufacture and go through the pre-IND process with the FDA. Travelan OTC, Department of Defence collaboration, the Uniform Services University. I mentioned that we are actively recruiting. More than 20% have been recruited with a view to completing that study by the end of this calendar year. I might pause there, Henslow, and maybe hand back to you for a Q&A session.
Thanks, Stephen. So I've just got a couple of questions, and for any of the listeners that are wishing to submit any more questions, please do so via the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. So what is the company and its directors doing for the lagging share price? If the directors are so confident in the company, why not address this by buying more shares?
Look, the company is confident. I can't speak for the directors buying shares. To be aware, of course, at the moment we're in a blackout period where we're unable to purchase such shares. But look, the lagging share price, I've tried to outline in this presentation today what we're doing about that. So we have significant growth underway for Travelan, our flagship product. We plan to continue to grow that, and I mentioned that we're looking to get back as early as next financial year to exceed peak sales prior to the pandemic. We're looking to expand that into new markets. We're looking at bringing new products in. We're looking at accelerating the progress of our clinical trial programs, both of which I've already mentioned. We've validated the market potential. So there's a lot of key value drivers, both on the commercial side and the R&D side of our business, which we expect should lead to greater interest from investors, and hopefully will address the flagging share price.
Thanks, Stephen. Next one. What is happening with the Arteria Health business? Is there an update on the investment in this company?
We completed that investment back in November, so we have some 17.5% ownership of Arteria. I have a board position on Arteria. I've attended a couple of board meetings, and I have another one tonight. I'll get an update then. I do foresee that we will, in the near future, provide an update on what's going on with Arteria, and also our interest in partnering with them to collaborate with regard to distribution of our product in their market, in their channel, and also their product within our markets of interest.
Next question. Why not use the spare cash to do a share buyback?
It's another question for the board that I'm sorry I'm unable to answer today.
Thanks, Stephen. That is all in terms of the questions. Any final comments from you, Stephen?
Yes, look, I've been with Immuron for a short time. I joined late June last year, but we've, I think, achieved quite a lot in this short amount of time. Had some hiccups along the way with the supply capacity constraints, but yeah, we're fully stocked back in Australian wholesalers and Australian pharmacies with our Travelan products. Sales are growing rapidly. The clinical trial program, after many years, we've got that IND approval for Travelan, and that study will get underway in the first half of this calendar year. We're working hard to address that clinical hold on Camp BTEC, and yeah, we're one of the few Australian biotech companies that has a portfolio of multiple clinical trial programs in phase 2, and I don't think the share market's adequately valuing that, and I'm going to continue to work hard to grow our sales and advance our clinical programs, and I'm sure along the way that that recognition will come. So what I say that I'm going to do in our milestones, we'll endeavour to achieve, and I'll report on that. And of course, confidence comes from achieving milestones that you project to investors.
Stephen, we've just had another question come through. Can I just put it to you before we finish up? When do you think the company revenue will hit 10 million?
10 million, that's good. That's a good question. Look, our target, we're doing our strategic planning for 5 years at the moment. We're setting a 5-year plan target of $15 million. Somewhere between now and the end of that 5-year period, we should hit 10 million. So it's not an inconceivable number, and it's within the framework of the strategies that we're currently developing.
Thanks. Another comment, you promised to do quarterly updates last year, but we are not getting quarterly updates from management. Can you comment?
I did promise that, and I have been providing updates, and I have had this question directly from one of our investors. Look, I think there was a miss on having one of our updates not being available to everybody via a webinar such as this one, and I'll see to make sure that that won't happen in the future. So as at the end of March quarter in April, I'll do another one of these webinars to give everyone an update.
Great, thanks. Another one has come in. What is your opinion is the reason for the lagging share price?
Look, if I knew the answer to that question, I might be a good share market investor. I don't know, to be honest. It doesn't make sense to me that our share price, the market cap is less than our cash. I do value our flagship product, Travelan, and our clinical program. I've already outlined external validation of the market potential of the pipeline, and sales of the flagship product speak for itself. So I think it will come. I think it's a matter of doing the things that you say you're going to do and achieving them within a time frame that is reflective of what investors expect. I think a lot of the things that have happened in the past haven't happened as quickly as what people would like. So maybe there was a lack of confidence. We're working hard to do what we say we'll do to regain that confidence, which hopefully will regain the share price trajectory upwards.
Thanks, Stephen. That ends all the questions, and I guess that will rounds out today's webinar. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you. And please take time to read the appendices in the deck. It has lots of good links to scientific references and also to other aspects associated with business. And if you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to email me and I'll endeavour to answer them. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen.